Have you ever been publicly humiliated by a boss who thinks they're untouchable? It's a strange feeling, like all the air is sucked out of the room, like every eye is suddenly focused on you while your heartbeat thunders in your ears. And that's exactly what happened to me. All because a newly promoted, absolutely unqualified team lead decided that humiliating me in front of 30 coworkers would somehow make him look powerful. He thought he was delivering a lesson. What he didn't know was that I wasn't just confident. I was prepared. And the law. Let's just say, the law was about to slap him harder than any confrontation ever could. If you've ever dealt with a boss who gets a tiny sliver of authority and suddenly thinks they're royalty, hit that like button. And subscribe if you enjoy watching karma unfold in the most delicious, poetic way possible. Because what you're about to hear is clean, it's legal, and it is beautiful. Corporate offices are supposed to be predictable. Deadlines, meetings, emails, coffee that tastes like disappointment. Routines that repeat day after day like clockwork. But ours changed. Not dramatically, but enough that everyone felt it, the moment Brad got promoted. Imagine the least qualified person in your office. The one who stumbles through tasks. The one whose voice magically grows louder when the boss walks by. The one who pretends to be helpful but contributes absolutely nothing. That was Brad. He had been at the company for less than a year. Barely long enough to know where the supply closet was. Zero leadership experience. Zero understanding of team management. Zero respect from anyone. And, according to HR's own written rules, he wasn't even eligible to apply for promotion. Yet somehow, almost comically, his name appeared on the list of new team leads. One of 3 people, overseeing a department of 30. People were stunned, then irritated, then furious. Grievances were filed. Documents submitted. Meetings requested. Entire folders thick with complaints landed on HR's desk. But one by one, each grievance was dropped. Quietly, silently, suspiciously, people started whispering theories. Whispers that grew into conversations, and conversations that became the unspoken truth. Brad didn't earn the position. He kissed up to the right people. He didn't climb. He clung his way to the top like a parasite. Before his promotion, most people didn't like him. After the promotion, people actively loathed him. Except for 2 sycophants who hovered around him like satellites orbiting a dead planet. The atmosphere in the office shifted. You could see it in the way people spoke to him. Tight smiles, clipped tones, forced politeness. Management noticed too. They weren't stupid. They saw the resentment. They heard the sighs. They felt the tension every time Brad entered a room. So instead of admitting they'd picked the wrong guy, they told him, "You need to work on being more likable. Try to connect with the team. Build camaraderie." And Brad, with all the brilliant strategy of a damp sponge, decided the answer was monthly happy hours. Not mandatory, officially, but according to him. You should think of these as required. Those words fluttered through the office like a cold breeze. And suddenly, people were panicking. Parents arranged sitters. People with hour-long commutes stressed over late drives home. Introverts felt dread sinking deep into their stomachs. Everyone rearranged their personal lives because a man desperate for validation wanted people to drink with him. The injustice was subtle but suffocating, the kind of silent pressure that eats at people. But here's the thing. I wasn't even under Brad's leadership. Not my team lead. Not my boss. Not my problem. I liked my actual team. Genuinely. We'd hung out outside of work before. Birthday parties, weekend BBQs, stuff that felt natural. But Brad. I was not spending unpaid time babysitting a man whose personality was 50% ego and 50% desperation. And most importantly, I knew my rights, so I declined. Politely. Firmly. And Brad hated that. He hated it almost as much as he hated being alone. The day of the happy hour, the tension in the office felt thick, like humidity before a storm. Brad walked around acting like a sheriff checking if townsfolk were following his rules. Then he came to me. Once. Then again. And then a third time. 3 separate visits. Each one more desperate than the last. You're coming, right? Everyone is going. You should really be there. Management pays attention to these things. I didn't even look up. Nope, I said, still typing. I don't spend unpaid time at required events. If you want me there, put me on the clock. Silence. Then the slow, glitching freeze of a man who had just encountered an error message he wasn't programmed to handle. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. The veins on his neck twitched like they were arguing with him. He turned and walked away. Stiff, robotic, like a toddler desperately pretending they weren't upset about being denied ice cream. People shuffled in the next morning looking like survivors returning from battle. Fake smiles. Tired eyes. The kind of slow, dragging steps that only come from forced socializing. Everyone pretended they had a great time. They didn't. You could see the truth in their posture. Shoulders slumped, faces tense, irritation simmering under the surface. And most of all, everyone avoided Brad. He strutted in like he had done something heroic. At 10 a.m., we gathered for our daily stand-up. Brad stepped forward with the confidence of a man who genuinely believed he had charisma. "Last night was amazing," he said loudly. "It was great to see everyone show up. Team bonding is so important." Then, the pivot. The sudden turn of his head. The narrowing of his eyes. The shift in his tone, smug and sharp. Well, some people decided to be antisocial. Management notices when people skip required events. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Cold. Uncomfortable. Electric. 30 people froze, eyes darting to me. Sympathy softening their expression. Brad stood tall, chest puffed out, proud of himself. He thought he'd cornered me. Embarrassed me. Proven something. But inside me, there was no anger. Just a slow, steady calm. Spark. A decision forming like a storm cloud. If Brad wanted to humiliate me publicly, then publicly is exactly where I'd end this. 20 minutes later, I opened a new email. To entire department. CC, the actual manager. BCC, my quiet satisfaction. I typed a message so polite it sparkled. "Hey everyone. Someone asked me about the rules for happy hours. State statute redacted. Says hourly employees cannot be required to attend unpaid work events. So if you ever can't make it, no worries. You're completely within your rights." Then I added a smiley face. A soft little blade dipped in honey. I hit send. And the office shifted. You could feel it, the energy flooding back into the room. People straightened, smiled, tilted their heads with interest. Some even let out a tiny relieved exhale. "Wait, we don't have to go. We're not required. We can say no." It was like watching 30 people wake up from the same bad dream. And across the room, Brad looked like he had been unplugged from reality. His shoulders dropped. His hands stilled. His face drained of color. He stared at his monitor as if praying it would show a different outcome. Didn't. The next happy hour came. Brad sat alone at the bar. The one after that. Still alone. A man drowning in his own forced charisma. 2 untouched drinks sat in front of him each time, like he was saving a seat for friends he didn't have, hoping someone would show up, pretending he wasn't watching the door every 3 minutes. People stopped being afraid. Stopped rearranging their lives. Stopped playing along with his illusion of authority. His little empire of insecurity collapsed. Have you ever been publicly humiliated by a boss who thinks they're untouchable? All because of one friendly paragraph of state law. Like all the air is out of the room. He couldn't guilt-trip anyone anymore. Couldn't pretend the events were mandatory. That's exactly what happened to management notices. As a newly promoted again, absolute qualified team decided that humiliating me in front of coworkers would somehow make him look dissolved. He was delivering and all that remained what he was said. I wasn't just confident. Sitting alone, I was month after month. And the law, trying to pretend it didn't bother him. The law was about to slap him harder than any There's a special kind of satisfaction in a revenge that doesn't require yelling and suddenly think of royalty. No like confrontations. And subscribe no if you're watching fights. Karma unfold in the most way just possible. The law. Because
Just
what you're
watching
about
a
here,
bully crumble
clean,
under the weight of
it's
their
legal,
own ego.
and it is
Every
beautiful.
time he
Corporate
stared
offices
at
are
that
supposed to
empty
be
seat beside him,
headlines,
every
meetings,
time he
emails,
checked the door,
coffee
hoping
that's
someone
like
might walk in,
disappointment,
teens that repeat
every
day
time
after
he
day
lifted
like
a glass toward a
Hours
non-existent
changed.
group.
Dramatically,
That was
but enough
justice.
that everyone
Silent,
the moment
clean,
Brad got promoted.
perfect,
Sweeter than any
qualified
beer he
person
tried to use as
one
bribery.
who stumbles through
Workplace
tasks.
bullies thrive on two things:
Fear,
and the boss
and
walks
ignorance.
by. When
One
people
who
don't know
pretends to
they're
be
right,
helpful, but
it's absolutely
bullies
nothing.
exploit them.
Was Brad.
Manipulate
He had been at the
them,
company for less
twist
than
them.
but
Barely
the
long
moment
enough
you
to
shine
know where
light
the
on the
closet
truth.
was.
Zero
Break.
leadership experience.
Brad didn't lose because
Zero
I fought
understand
him.
team
He
management.
lost because I stood
Zero
up.
respect
With
from
confidence.
anyone. And
With
according
facts.
to HR's
And
own
with a
written
perfectly
rules,
timed,
he isn't
perfectly
even
polite
eligible to
email.
apply for promotion.
There's something deeply
Somehow,
satisfying
almost
about
comic,
watching
name
injustice
appeared on the
collapse
list
in
of
slow
new
motion.
Of three
Watching
people
a man who thought
overseeing
power
a
was his
department
birthright
were
unravel
stunned.
quietly before
Then
your eyes.
irritated. The office
Various
had regained its
grievances
rhythm.
were filed.
People moved freely
Documents
again.
submitted.
Conversations
Meetings
were
requested.
stifled by
Entire
invisible
folders
rules.
thick with complaints
Laughter
landed on our
returned to the
desk.
lunchroom. Even the introverts started breathing a little easier. And Brad,
silently,
he kept sitting at those
suspiciously,
bars alone. Started whispering
Each happy
theories.
hour,
Now a
whispered
testament
grew into
to
his
conversations.
failure.
Each attempt to
became the
mingle with the
unspoken
team
truth.
a quiet
Brad
humiliation
didn't
he
earn
couldn't
the
avoid.
position.
He kissed up
His
to the right
sycophants
people.
had
long stopped
Didn't
following him
climb,
around
clung
like
his
puppies.
way to the top like
the
a parasite.
irony of it all.
Or his promotion,
that single
most people
polite
didn't
email,
like.
written
The
with calm
promotion.
certainty. People
Had done
actively
what
loathed
anger
it
or
for two
confrontation
sycophants
never
who hovered
could.
around like
It had
satellites
stripped him of
orbiting
the
a
only
dead
weapon
planet.
he thought he
The
had.
atmosphere in the
Fear.
office shifted.
And the best
You
part,
see it in the way people
watching
spoke
people
to him.
realize
They didn't have to
smiles,
cater to
clipped
someone
tones, forced
undeserving of
politeness.
respect was
Thrilling.
noticed too. Relief,
They weren't
empowerment,
stupid.
laughter. They saw the resentment,
They heard the
subtle but
sighs.
powerful. They felt
Every
the tension
glance
at
at
the
the
empty
empty
seat he
entered the
reserved
room.
for himself.
So instead of
Every
admitting
sigh
they'd
as he
picked the
watched
guy,
people politely
they
decline,
told him,
was
"We need to
satisfaction
work on
distilled
being
into
more likable."
silence.
That is the
Connect
beauty
with
of
the team.
quiet revenge.
Camaraderie.
It is methodical,
Brad, with all the
precise,
brilliant strategy
undeniable.
of a sponge,
And in the end,
decided
it's
the
far
answer
more
was monthly
satisfying
hours,
than any dramatic
mandatory,
outburst.
But
Teaches a
according
lesson
to him,
without screaming.
You should have these
It sets
as
the
required.
record straight
Those
without
fluttered through the
confrontation.
office like a
Lets
cold.
justice
And
unfold
suddenly,
naturally.
people were panicking.
I watched as his
Parents
influence
arranged
dwindled.
sitters. The office
People
slowly
hourly
untangling
commutes
itself
strapped
from the
late drives
invisible
home.
leash he thought he held.
Introverts felt
People were
dragging
free
deep into their
People were
stomachs.
happy.
And rearranged
he was
their
alone,
personal lives.
as a man
Completely
desperate
alone.
for and wanted
No
people
threats,
to drink with
no
him.
meetings,
This was
no
subtle
dramatic
but suffocating.
showdowns.
Just
The
the
natural
silent
consequence
consequence
of
of
his
his
actions
actions
and a calm,
Here's the thing,
well-placed
it wasn't
email.
even under
It was
Brad's
perfect.
leadership.
And honestly,
Not my lead. It felt
not my
sweeter
boss,
than anything
not my
else
problem,
I've ever experienced
like my
at
actual
work.
team.
So if this story
Genuinely,
made you smile
we'd hung
even a
outside
little,
of work before.
hit that like button,
Birthday parties
and tell me in the
BBQs,
comments. Stuff
what's
that
the
felt
stupidest
natural.
thing a boss
Brad,
ever tried to
I was
force
not
you to
spending
do.
unpaid
And
time
don't forget
sitting
to
a man
subscribe
whose
for more
personality
stories
was
where
50%
karma doesn't
and
knock.
50% desperation.
It kicks the
Most
door in.